So quite a few years ago, I had a large collection of Pokemon that I was enjoying the hobby, collected it as a whole, and never saw it as an actual business opportunity. But after learning the market, understanding what cards were actually worth and strategically selling them, my collection turned into well over £2,000 in just under 1 month. First, I want to make something clear. My collection, to me, wasn't worth over £2,000. These were just cards that I collected over time. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Riftbound, and numerous other TCGs. I just loved the hobby until I just started to fall out of love with collecting. This was mostly due to scalpers. I'm going to be completely honest. I could not get my hands on product that was at a reasonable price, and I was just like, okay, I can't be doing this anymore because it's too expensive. People are buying it and tripling the sale price on it. So it just made it kind of pointless to me because I wasn't going to be paying these scalpers prices. So what I did was I stopped looking at my cards as a collection and started looking at them as assets. So the first thing that I will say is most collectors don't actually understand the value of their collection that they have. Now, granted, there are apps now that you can use and vice versa. However, there are still certain cards that may be looked over and not checked. For example, if you were collecting in 2015 through 2020, you might have a few of these Psyducks from Cosmic Eclipse. Now, if you have them in reverse holo, these are worth anywhere between £20 and £30. Pretty damn crazy. The platforms that I use currently are Card Market, I use eBay, and I use CardUploader. Now, Card Market I use to sell off any very cheap bulk items that I have. So anything that is worth anywhere between 2p and 25p, I would use Card Market for. And my floor price on them is very dependent on if it's a reverse holo or if it's just a standard card. So obviously everything always differs. Most floor pricing is at 2 to 10p, and most floor pricing for reverse holos or holos is anywhere between 5p to 25p. And I use eBay for anything that is 25p or greater. A very crucial step if you are looking at starting a TCG card business, especially singles. I'm not talking about sealed product here. I'm just talking about singles, is the images need to be high quality. Now, the easiest way to do that is to get a scanner. Now, scanners can be somewhat expensive. It just depends on what you're looking at. And I wouldn't recommend buying a scanner if all you have is around 1,000 cards. You need to have at least somewhere between 5,000 plus cards for a scanner to really be viable for your business. Otherwise, I would just take photos of the cards. Or if you are willing to invest a little bit of money, get a flatbed scanner where you just lay the cards and it just scans. Yes, you have to do it one by one. However, they are a lot cheaper than the scanners that we use for scanning thousands of cards. I'm not going to go into what brand of scanners that you should be looking at. It's so expensive, and if you don't have that inventory to start with, it's not worth it. I will go over it in another video. And what I've noticed that a lot of sellers tend to get wrong is the accuracy of the card quality, that being if it's near mint, mint, light play, heavy play, etc. I've noticed that a lot of sellers tend to get that wrong. And this is very crucial because especially if you're selling on eBay, you want to make sure that all of your information is correct. And that's from the photos to the title to the description. Because if you don't have accurate information, people will leave negative feedback, and you don't want that. You don't want negative and you don't want neutral feedback. And also, there will be a lot of people coming at you offering very low prices for the cards that you've got. Just avoid it. Don't even give them the light of day. Most of these people are resellers themselves. So they will try and take a high value card and knock off a large percentage of the price on it. Just don't give them the light of day. So the next part is if you have a collection and you have some valuable cards. So for example, this Snorlax is pretty pricey at the minute, like any low end cards as well. So like this Jigglypuff, fairly cheap card. All of these have recently sold aside from these two. So these two are still live on eBay, but these ones here have sold. The Venusaur from Celebrations is a very good card to have. It's around, £7 to £10. If you were opening Celebrations back in the day, you might have a fair few of these sitting around, and that can help jumpstart your business. And also I have Riftbound cards. This one is just a foil card. However, they sell because they might be playable cards. So that's why I would fully recommend investing at least into something like CardUploader. My link is in description if you want to check it out. CardUploader basically allows you to see the pure value of the cards that you have. And if you are still not sure of the value, CardUploader gives a direct link to the eBay search. So you can see last sold, you can also see currently listed if it's a low pop card, and it just helps you massively in kind of organizing the value of your cards. So it's been around 1 month, just over 1 month now, that I've been reselling my own collection, and I've made just over £2,000. It's been pretty good going. A lot of those cards, if not the majority of those cards, are not massive cards. I think I've sold one card that was over £150, and that was just one card. The rest of the sales have just been anywhere between £5 to maybe £50 if I'm lucky. We have hit just over 100 orders on our eBay in just over 1 month. So it's been pretty crazy. And if you pull the average from that, it's about £20 a card, give or take. So the goal in starting a singles business is not just selling the cards, it's creating a cycle where every decision grows your inventory. You want to make sure that when you sell stuff, you are already looking around Facebook Marketplace, Discords, Gumtrees, even your local charity shops. You might even have friends that used to collect cards, etc. You need to be looking at already upping your inventory. What most people don't talk about is the profit side of things. I've not heavily experienced this yet because, like I said, this is my own collection that I'm currently selling. However, once you start buying into trading cards, you're going to be buying at around 70, maybe 80%, depending on what the card is. So your profit margin is not very high, especially after fees and after everything else that comes with it. The profit margin is very slim. So you have to ensure that the cards you're buying aren't just going to sit on a shelf for the next 2 years. Like, you need to be very sure of that, because if you're not, then you could just lose money. We don't want that. For the start, if you do have a collection, the biggest lesson that I learned was you don't need to buy more cards. If you've already got a collection, just go through it, check absolutely everything and just see what you've got, because you need to understand the value of what you already have. Because if you have a collection sitting at home, you might be surprised of what it's actually worth. Especially if you were collecting during XY Sun and Moon era, you'll be very surprised at what that collection might actually be worth today. So once you take that step of selling your collection and you've began to get an income from selling your collection, you want to start looking around at buying collections, maybe seeing your friends and seeing if they have any old cards that they used to collect and they maybe forgot about. Just look for any opportunities that you can to purchase cards for a very cheap price, especially like bulk cards. You know, bulk cards usually, if it's a modern set, so like the silver borders, it's 1,000 cards for £10. That is the base low for modern set. Anyone that tells you different, so anyone that expects £20 to £25 for 1,000 cards, that's not the worth of 1,000 cards. Now, the only reason you'd be buying 1,000 cards is to sift through it. So what sifting means is you're going through it and checking if there's any valuable cards in that bulk lot that you bought. So the reason for this is obviously you want to take out the cards that are of value. So anything that is greater than 25p, maybe you want to take that card out and list it elsewhere other than card market, so maybe eBay. So just be careful. I know 1,000 cards sounds like a lot, however in the long run it's not, because they can take you a long time to sell. They could just be sitting on your shelf wasting away. As I mentioned, I started this business just selling my collection alone. I didn't have anything crazy. I did have old like WotC cards and a certain promo that I sold recently that was the big card that I mentioned. But aside from that, I didn't have anything crazy. And all I've really been selling is what would have been back then lower end cards, but they now have a premium because of their age. And a lot of the cards from that era weren't really looked after because no one cared. Like a lot of these, like I mentioned earlier, these side up cards, no one really cared about them back then. However, now they do. So you might have some gems in your collection. Go through it. If you have thousands of cards, I highly recommend something like CardUploader. That will just help you finalize a value for what you've actually got. If you do have any questions, please leave a comment. I have recently made a Discord. Join our Discord, ask away. Hopefully we can get a little community going here. That would be fantastic. Okay, so we have Tyler that purchased the Lytton Chinese sealed, Matthew that purchased Sabotage and Fading Memories from Riftbound. Very nice cards. Graham who purchased Jigglypuff, the Yukimori artwork, very nice card. Lewis who purchased the Psyduck from Cosmic Eclipse, reverse holo. We have Matt that purchased Hidden Blade, it is a foil, very nice card. Charlie, who purchased Mega Sableye and Tyranitar, Japanese. Tag team, very nice. And Elliot, who purchased the Venusaurs from Celebration. If you are interested in where these guys are purchasing from, our eBay link is in description. Go check it out, and maybe you'll be featured in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.